AQUABIZ, all the best knowledge for aquatic system.
Hello again, everybody. So we're going to continue with the next topic now, following the marine breeding technology. Okay, now I'm going to be speaking specifically about broodstock nutrition. Okay, specifically about broodstock nutrition. So, why is it important to have a good broodstock nutrition? As you can see, for our closed cycle system, which I mentioned earlier in the previous talk, okay, we have various stages which take place in the marine hatchery or in the on-growing facility, which can be ponds, tanks, or cages. Basically, broodstock is the start of all the process. So if we start well at the top, okay, we will have our good eggs, good egg quality, good hatching, and then we can go on to the rest of the process. Okay, so this is basically to remind us all where we are with broodstock, okay, when we start the system. Very important to see the quality of the eggs. As I mentioned earlier, important to have clear eggs like glass, okay? And first of all, when we collect eggs, we have to look at our buoyancy rate. Okay, so this is how we start calculating how good our egg quality is. Buoyancy rate. When we collect the eggs from the tank, how many eggs are floating, how many eggs are sinking. Okay, if the higher the buoyancy rate, definitely the better the spawn is. Okay, so if we have 95, 99% buoyancy rate, it means we had a very good spawn. If we had 40% buoyancy rate, it means our spawn was not so good. Once we collect the buoyant eggs, we look in the microscope or in the profile projector, as I indicated earlier, and we see the fertilization rate. So we see a certain number of eggs, we count the number of eggs, and we see how many of those eggs are fertilized. How do we know they are fertilized? They will be clear, okay? They will be symmetrical if they are starting development. You will see the cells, okay? Or you will see the larva forming, or you will see the morula or gastrula stage, okay? So this is how we know that the eggs are fertilized. If the eggs are dark or not clear, they will have bacteria inside them, they are dying or they are dead, okay? So this means they are not good, they are not fertilized. We look for the pattern, the shape of the embryonic cells. This gives us normality of the eggs. We see how many eggs are normal from the fertilized eggs, okay? And we can also analyze fertilized eggs for nutritional factors, okay? We can carry out chemical analysis and see, for example, lipid content, fatty acid content, polar lipids, non-polar lipids, how much cholesterol in the eggs, etc., etc. Carotenoids, pigments in the eggs, okay? So this will show us what has been transferred from the parent to the eggs. We can also look at survival, okay? So it could be that in the beginning the eggs are developing well, but then we have some eggs which will sink to the bottom. They have died. Those were non-viable eggs, okay? Usually when this happens, it means that the egg quality is not very good, because most times when we have eggs, they will develop until they hatch. And as we mentioned in the previous section, okay, we check the cumulative survival by following survival activity index, okay? If anybody is interested for this, you can look up on the internet. I'm not sure if there is a paper, but if not, you can contact me and I will try and send you a paper by email on survival activity index. Okay, now, when we take the broodstock nutrition approach, we have to note that it is very important to identify the beneficial micronutrients so that egg quality can be improved for each species. And through this knowledge, dry pellets can be developed. Okay, so remember that all broodstock nutrition is species specific. Okay, this is very important. Same for egg quality, same for survival activity index. These are all species specific. Okay, so from one species to another, you can vary the requirements. Okay, so first of all, why is it important to develop dry pellets for aquaculture? Okay, as I just mentioned, different species have different requirements for growth and further specific requirements for reproduction. So in this case, experiments must be carried out on the different species to identify the micronutrients that are essential for high fecundity and good egg quality. We look at spawning, we just saw in the previous talk, we look at spawning and we identify fecundity and egg quality. Fecundity is the number of eggs produced with egg quality. I may be repeating something sometimes, but this is because it is important, okay? So, I did my studies on broodstock nutrition at the Tokyo University of Fisheries under Professor Takeshi Watanabe. Okay, today this university is the Tokyo University of Marine Science and Technology. Okay, Professor Takeshi Watanabe, maybe many of you heard of him. He was the pioneer in broodstock nutrition. He was the first one in the 1980s to realize the importance of improving the diet to get good quality eggs. He also realized the importance of enrichment for the live feed. Okay, so his contribution to aquaculture is super great. Okay, and I had the honor to learn from him, thank God. Okay, and I will try and put this data to you today. Okay, from his experiments in the 1980s until my research until the year 2001. Okay, where we improved the broodstock diets. This was the biggest, most intense period, basically a 20-year period, a 15 to 20-year period of broodstock nutrition experimentation on marine fish, okay, which gave us the knowledge that we have today, okay, globally. So this is very important for broodstock nutrition, okay. Today, many hatcheries use fresh fish or dry pellets as broodstock nutrition, okay. They may use bait fish, squid, various vitamins or pigments added to the diet, okay, or other additives that can be added for the broodstocks. I'm sure that everybody has his own recipe, okay, but the important thing is that as you progress along, you can change some things slowly, but see the result and move on, okay? So obviously everybody does this as well in the, sorry, I wasn't using properly this. Everybody uses their own knowledge and progress accordingly. In this region of the world, okay, Asian tropical grouper and Asian sea bass are the most popular in this area. Okay, so I have no knowledge on these species, but I can hopefully guide you in the same way that we did with yellowtail, with striped jack and other species. We can go ahead and follow those principles. Okay, I did some research on grouper in Asia, okay, and I see that they are mainly fed on trash fish as they require high protein in their diet. For example, in Taiwan. In Indonesia, Asian sea bass are usually fed 6 times per week to satiation, 4 times fish, and twice squid. So there you have introduction of squid, probably for egg quality. Okay, vitamin mix is also added. So there are some reports on the inclusion of squid and other additives that can enhance spawning performance in Asian sea bass. There is very large need for more studies or experiments to evaluate the actual needs of these species so that specific diets can be formulated. And I'm sure that here there are feed producing companies and also hatcheries, okay, that I'm sure you've done your own work and you are progressing as well in this field. So what did the Japanese research focus on? Okay, basically started in the 1980s with red sea bream, very popular fish in Japan known as madai. Okay, continued in the 1990s with yellowtail and late 1990s with striped jack Shima agi, okay, which is Pseudocaranx dentex. I'm sure you all know red sea bream and yellowtail. Maybe striped jack, not so common in Thailand, but this one is a very popular fish, high priced in Japan. So we start with the work of the 1980s that was done on red sea bream, Madai. Okay, you can see the popularity in Japan. Okay, it is used for sushi, okay, and also for celebration dinners, okay, as sashimi. And the work that was done in 1984, 85 until 1991, okay, was the first reported work on marine broodstock nutrition. And in this work, Professor Takeshi Watanabe, okay, did a number of experiments using all these ingredients. And you can find these references in the 1980s, many papers. Okay, you think they are the same paper, but they're actually different on red sea bream. And basically, when he fed the fish with raw krill, okay, pre-frozen raw krill, 100%, this improved both fecundity and egg quality. When he fed with cuttlefish meal, 57% in pellets, okay, both fecundity and egg quality were improved. And then we have certain ingredients or altered ingredients that gave positive or no improvement result, okay? You can see here the plus is positive effect and negative effect of the ingredient. So cuttlefish meal oil, positive on fecundity, defetted cuttlefish meal and krill oil, positive on egg quality, krill oil, krill polar lipids, krill non-polar lipids, positive also on egg quality. Defetted krill meal had no effect or negative effect, and vitamin E also gave positive effects on both fecundity and egg quality. So we can see that for sure, raw krill, cuttlefish meal, and vitamin E gave positive effects on both the egg production, fecundity, and egg quality. This is in red sea bream. Okay, I emphasize this. You will see in the other species how the priorities change. So, we know from those results that we get positive effects from protein at a level of 45%, cuttlefish meal inclusion, cuttlefish liver oil, frozen krill, and the cantaxanthin, okay, which was added as an extra carotenoid, and vitamin E at 200 milligram per 100 gram of diet. For sure, those were the positive effects. Negative effects, low protein gave a negative effect on spawning, phosphorus deficiency gave a negative effect, and essential fatty acid deficiency also gave a negative effect. What about the krill meal? Okay, the lipid fraction of the krill meal seemed to be the part which enhanced the spawning performance, and this was particularly the phosphatidylcholine in the PL, in the polar lipid fraction, and the astaxanthin in the non-polar lipid fraction. Cuttlefish meal, what was the positive effect coming from? It was coming from the favorable amino acid composition and also from the higher cholesterol and lipid available in the cuttlefish meal or in the squid meal. There was also some work done on the hulled soybean meal, okay, in sea bream diets, okay. Now this is not a broodstock diet, however, it shows, because this is the USSEC, okay, so we are showing also that the soybean can enter into these diets. Even in the broodstock diets, okay, when I did my work on yellowtail diets, we had a percentage of soybean meal also in that diet. And the diets we are now using as experiments, even for bluefin tuna, contain also soybean meal from the United States, okay? So basically, we have here, okay, signs showing that the 100% fish meal in different diets can be replaced by can be decreased to 30% using 70% or 80% of the hulled soybean meal. And you can see the growth performance is very good in both these diets where fish meal was also replaced. So this is food for thought also for the sustainability of world aquaculture, okay, in replacing fish meal with soybean meal. So back to the broodstock, yellowtail, okay, the next species of importance. Now, when yellowtail research was started on broodstock nutrition in 1990, okay, they had the knowledge of the Red Sea bream, okay, so they based what came from the Red Sea bream as results on the research here. Yellowtail, very popular fish in Japan. Again, we can see here, okay, sashimi, sushi, and also some cooked, maybe, dishes, okay? So, very important, economically important species in Japan. Now, to know about the yellowtail broodstock diet, let's look at what they were feeding before the 1980s, okay? Basically, they were feeding Pacific mackerel, jack mackerel, and sardines, and vitamins, okay, and feed oils to get eggs from their yellowtail. I don't say to get good eggs, because today we know that those eggs were not very good quality, okay? So after the 1990s, this means when the results of the Red Sea bream was known, okay, they started adding, you can see, krill oil extracts, vitamin E, and squid, okay, and frozen fish to the moist pellet, okay, and this gave better spawning performance results, better egg quality and quantity. However, in 1996, okay, in 1996, the soft dry pellet was produced in Japan for the first time. This is today known as the extruded pellet, okay, but the soft dry pellet was extra soft. It was like a biscuit, all right? And this was because of the reason that yellowtail broodstock are caught from the wild and they do not shift easily to dry pellets. So they made an extra soft pellet known as the soft dry pellet. And as you know, the soft dry pellet or any pellet, we can include whatever ingredient we want. So in the soft dry pellet, they produced a commercial one first, okay, which had the necessary ingredients for the growth of yellowtail. And these soft dry pellets were taken in by the wild fish, which were caught for the broodstock. They were easily acceptable. They had a high palatability, better feed conversion ratio, reduced waste loading, and also from experiments on broodstock, they gave a better spawning performance. The soft dry pellet was a basic formulation with just a little bit of carotenoid for the color of the skin, because it was a commercial diet for commercially grown fish. Okay? So, experimentation started. We started looking at fecundity, sorry, they started looking at fecundity and egg quality. Okay? And when we talk about fecundity, I am talking about total eggs produced per kilogram female. Okay? Remember, you can have a batch of broodstock where the parent fish weighs 6 kilos, a batch of broodstock where the parent fish weighs 8 kilos. So it's important that we know the egg production per kilogram of female. Okay? If my broodstock is bigger than yours and I collect 5 million eggs and you collect 5 million eggs, your broodstock is more efficient because it is smaller. So per kilogram, you have a better fecundity. Egg quality, okay? We usually calculate egg quality by taking the number of viable larvae over the total eggs times 100, okay? Percentage, that is the percentage hatching rate, okay? So the egg quality can also be indicated by the hatching rate, because after all, we want to start with larvae. So it's no point having 1 million eggs and only 10% hatch, because then you don't have 1 million, you have only 100,000. What was the main ingredients in the soft dry pellet, okay, for yellowtail? And you can see here fish meal with a bit of defatted, oh, sorry, I want to go back, please. Can I? Okay, okay. So fish meal, okay, 50%. Defatted soybean meal, 4%. Okay, also introduced some corn gluten, wheat flour, and fish oil. These are the basic setup, the basic ingredients of the soft dry pellet for yellowtail. This is in 1992. And when we tested the soft dry pellet against the raw fish diet and the moist pellet diets, which were already used for yellowtail. They had 3 groups of yellowtail, all same condition, different cages, 3 groups. One group was fed only raw fish, mackerel and sardines, okay? One group was fed the moist pellet, which we saw before the formula, and one group was fed the soft dry pellet. Okay, so the protein proximate composition on a dry basis was very high for the raw fish and around 56 and 50 for the soft dry pellet. Lipid was higher in the soft dry pellet, up to 24, okay, and highly unsaturated fatty acids also the highest in the soft dry pellet and the lowest in the moist pellet. Total egg production results showed definitely the best results for soft dry pellet, okay, 36,000 eggs per kilogram of female, okay, and egg quality was also the best, 87% hatching rate for yellowtail, okay, fed the soft dry pellet, okay. The bait fish was very low egg production, okay, and even without hatching rate. So this shows the importance of improving the diet for the broodstock, okay? This was the same broodstock source, 3 different cages, 3 different diets, okay? So experiment layout. So this showed us that the soft dry pellet was giving the good results for yellowtail, but the results need to be improved, okay? So how can we improve the results? Further to that experiment, which was natural spawning, we also had another artificial insemination, okay? You can see here the eggs being mixed with the milt, okay? And also the result was proven again in the same year by artificial insemination of fish, and you can see the hatching rate was still the highest for the soft dry pellet. You can see also in the artificial insemination a big improvement in the bait fish diets, okay? But still, the soft dry pellet gave a very good hatching rate. Now, following on the results of the Red Sea bream, which gave good results for krill meal addition, they decided to add the following year with no krill meal on the soft dry pellet, 20% krill meal, and 30% krill meal. And this was a very surprising result, okay, because the krill meal added as a whole krill meal to the soft dry pellet did not give any improvement, okay? So in the case of yellowtail, this does not mean that krill meal is not good for broodstock. In the case of yellowtail, with soft dry pellet, the krill meal gave lower egg production compared to the 0 krill meal and lower hatching rate compared to the 0 krill meal. This is the SDP we had before, okay? This is the soft dry pellet commercial with no krill meal added, okay? Still gave the best result. This was my work done by my Thai colleague, okay, Vera Kumpriya. So, we had a dilemma here. This was the time when I went to University of Tokyo to start my studies, and I remember everybody scratched their head because krill meal gave good results with Red Sea bream, and in this case, what's wrong with yellowtail, you know? So this was a big problem. And then we found out that it was the krill meal as a whole, the esters could not be digested by the yellowtail. Okay, so this was the main problem. But still, I come back to say, this is how important it is because it is species specific. Okay, the species specificity of the ingredients. Okay, so you can see the difference, the very good results for, no, I want to go back. Okay, the very good results for krill meal with sea bream and the problem with yellowtail. So, what was beneficial in the krill meal? Krill meal has a pink-red color, that is astaxanthin. Okay, so they decided, let's add pure astaxanthin to the diet, not astaxanthin esters, like they are found in krill meal. We add the pure astaxanthin to the diet. And in this case, okay, they decided to make soft dry pellet with 0 astaxanthin added, 20 ppm, 30 ppm, and 40 ppm. Okay? And again, same fish, same number of fish, same cages, everything same except diet. Same spawning period, same spawning induction, okay? And the fish were taken for spawning, 4 tanks, okay? Total egg production showed a decrease with 20 ppm compared to 0, 20 ppm decrease egg production, 30 ppm increase egg production, 40 ppm decrease egg production. So here we are now, okay, seeing that the level of inclusion of the astaxanthin is very important for the improvement of the diet. And the egg quality confirmed the result, okay, that the best hatching rate was from the 30 ppm astaxanthin. Now, yellowtail experiments are difficult to conduct because you need a cage for each group, you need a tank for each group, and the tanks of yellowtail are 50 cubic meters each. So it is a very big job to handle the fish, which are about 8 kilos each as well. So we can't do triplicate experiment or duplicate experiment. So these are the type of experiments we need to prove over the years. Okay, in fact, in the years after, we used 30 ppm again as a control, and it was proven to be better still. Okay, so this is how we prove these. So anyway, eventually we came to another experiment, and we added paprika. Okay, now, why paprika? So we kept again the control as the normal soft dry pellet without astaxanthin, the astaxanthin 30 ppm, and paprika, okay, 2% addition by weight. Now, 2% addition was calculated because paprika powder has 1.74 grams per kilogram of xanthophylls. So to calculate 30 ppm, okay, we add 2% by weight of the paprika powder. I was going to say, why did we choose paprika? Because we were reading about carotenoids, and astaxanthin has a very good beneficial antioxidant effect. And paprika, which contains capsanthin and capsorbin, which are 2 other red carotenoids, are more potent than astaxanthin. Okay? And above capsanthin and capsorbin, there's lycopene, which is the red carotenoid in tomatoes. Okay? But anyway, paprika we could get readily available, and we tried this in our next experiment. And it was difficult to pass the good results of astaxanthin, but still we got better results, okay, with total egg production of improving, okay, quite a significant value, and also egg quality was improving as well. So the paprika gave us better results still. This was for yellowtail. Now, we knew also that the squid is good from our sea bream experiments. So after the paprika, remember, these are all big experiments, 1 year, and then we wait another year to do it, because always in the spawning period. Okay, so, and then we said, okay, let's add to the paprika, we add fish meal and squid meal. So we had a diet with only astaxanthin added. Now this became the control because it was confirmed over 3 years to have the good effect. Okay, so this became the control diet for the broodstock. We added the same diet with paprika from the previous year, and paprika and squid meal, okay, again added to show the effect of it. Okay, so the protein source in this case was 50% fish meal, 50% squid meal. And our result on total egg production was not so significantly, well, it was a bit less for the paprika-fed fish, but when we look at the hatching rate, okay, we had a significant increase in hatching, okay, from here, and also just a slight increase, not significant, for the squid meal. So this was one of my last experiments in my PhD. I would have redone this experiment to confirm whether there is an increase in value, or maybe as well decrease squid meal. Maybe 2:1 ratio, two fish meal, 1 squid meal. Okay, so remember the difference in the ppm of astaxanthin, what a difference it made in the egg quality. Okay, still, maybe this needs tweaking. Maybe we only need 10% squid meal, not half. Okay, so these results need further studies, okay? But still, we have a general recipe, okay, showing that the carotenoids are very beneficial for spawning performance of yellowtail. This was also shown in the pigmentation of the eggs, okay, where you can see a darker color. I'm sorry, I took this photo and I'm not professional, but you can see there was a very clear darker color when more carotenoids were included. Okay, so this indicates the incorporation of carotenoids from diet into the eggs. It is astaxanthin converted to zeaxanthin. Yesterday I was speaking and you told me that the eggs of Asian sea bass are yellow, which means that Asian sea bass require carotenoid in their diet for better egg quality. Okay, this is definite. If you allow me to go back to this slide, I want to say maybe also the lower result here could be that probably the source of paprika, although it indicates the same, may be too much paprika added here, okay, or too little. So this one needs tweaking as well. Okay, so maybe that is like the 30 and 40 ppm example we saw previously with yellowtail. Along with the yellowtail studies, my MSc and PhD theses were on striped jack. And these are the experiments I carried out in line with what we did with yellowtail and red sea bream. Striped jack is known as shimaji in Japanese, very popular sushi, okay, and it is very expensive, almost same price as yellowtail. But the biggest problem with striped jack was that they have a viral problem, a virus, striped jack nervous necrosis virus, okay? And they eliminated it, the Japanese eliminated it from the system by selective breeding, okay? They were detecting the virus on the parents and eliminating them from the broodstock. So they got the broodstock with non-virus, and they managed to eliminate that from the Japanese aquaculture system of striped jack. Striped jack normal larvae without virus, they give a survival activity index 6 or 7 days, okay? With virus, 1 day, because they die immediately. So, and then this was improved by genetic selection. Same as yellowtail, okay? For striped jack, late 1960s, early 70s, this is a fish that was reared for a very long time in Japan, okay? They used to feed only bait fish, okay? Jack mackerel and sardines, and then they started moist pellets in the 70s. And in the 1980s, since striped jack takes approximately 1 or 2 months spawning, okay? They spawn between February and May, okay? They divided the year into different diets, okay? Basically, before spawning, they would feed, in the months before spawning, they will feed vitamins and feed oil to the diet, and during spawning, they will feed vitamins, feed oil, cuttlefish liver oil to the diet. After spawning, they have what I referred to before as the maintenance diet or the growth diet, okay? This would be just moist pellets and vitamin mix to keep the fish healthy until the following year. This was in the 1980s. Come the 1990s, they designed a diet which is definitely, I think, the best diet, okay? Which was basically giving jack mackerel, squid, and shrimp prior to spawning and during spawning, okay, with vitamin, feed oil, and cuttlefish liver oil. This diet, as you will see in the next experiments, was the best diet and very difficult to beat with pellets, okay? But we managed to do it after some years. 1996, soft dry pellet experiments, okay? The pellets were made for yellowtail. Yellowtail is a migratory species. They need high lipid, okay? The lipid was too high for the striped jack, and they had lipid accumulation. So you will see from the experiments how we went along. And then after that, we introduced the steam dry pellet with lower fat content, okay? And this led to the development of dry pellet diet for broodstock striped-jack. You will see that the striped-jack story has a lot of hurdles compared to the yellowtail story. Why is this? Because, as I mentioned earlier, they used to feed squid, shrimp, squid, and mackerel, okay, in a 2:2:1 ratio to the broodstock. And this gave very good results, okay? I told you it takes 1 or 2 months spawning. You can see here, okay, with raw fish, 37 spawnings, okay? And with the soft dry pellet, only 27 spawnings. Total egg production per kilogram female, 1.5 million, okay? Per kilogram female, this is, in 37 days, okay? And here, only 500,000, half, less than half, okay? Egg quality and hatching rate also much better for the raw fish diet. So here we have a big challenge, okay? Contrary to yellowtail, remember in yellowtail, compare the fish to the soft dry pellet, big improvement. In this case, big negative, okay? So this one also made us scratch our head. How can we start to improve? Another factor is the eggs were white for both diets, okay? So diet with carotenoid, raw fish diet, which contain the shrimp, which has carotenoid, still no coloration in the eggs. So what's happening to the carotenoids? They are going in the fish, but not in the eggs, okay? In yellowtail and in red sea bream and in Asian grouper, your carotenoids go from the diet into the eggs. In this case, it is different. So we started with spirulina. Why spirulina? Because we thought that maybe the astaxanthin cannot be passed into the eggs in striped-jack. But in yellowtail, the yellow color of the eggs is zeaxanthin and lutein, which is found in spirulina. So we said, let's give direct spirulina to the fish. And we put 2% spirulina, which is the equivalent of 10 ppm, okay? Because the raw fish diet on analysis showed us that it is 10 ppm carotenoid, but still the raw fish diet was the winner, okay? So still here we had a problem. Less spawning days, less egg production, less hatching rate. So again, another year without gain. Still, raw fish diet is the best diet. We found out, as I mentioned earlier, that with the high lipid content, there was lipid accumulation in the bellies of the striped-jack, okay? So we decreased our fat content to approximately 15 to 19% on a dry basis, and we produced 2 diets. Dry pellet commercial without any added astaxanthin, dry pellet with added astaxanthin at 10 ppm, okay? And raw fish with the shrimp, squid, and mackerel, okay? Which was the best diet. Still, okay, the results was higher egg production for the raw fish, but this time, okay, we see an improved egg production from the astaxanthin group. This is pure astaxanthin, okay? So we see that the number of spawning days improved compared to the raw fish diet. So this was our first indication. Finally, we found an ingredient that is giving a good result, okay? And we have more spawning days. However, the egg production is not yet high. It's improving from our dry pellet, but it's not yet high, okay? And with regards to hatching rate, you can see the best result was still for the raw fish diet. So overall, the raw fish diet is still the winner, but we have an improvement with addition of astaxanthin. Again, no color in the eggs, okay? So the astaxanthin improved the egg production, and as you can see from the slide before, the egg quality was not improved. Okay, just egg production improved and number of days. So the astaxanthin is doing something good in the fish. More egg days production and more production compared to the other dry pellet. But still no incorporation in the eggs. So, what do we need to make this good diet for the striped jack? And we went back to squid. Okay, so our protein source now, half fish meal, half squid meal. And another diet, fish meal, squid meal, and krill meal. Compare with raw fish diet. And again, this time, we had more spawning days for the squid diet, okay? But still, the egg production was lower, okay? And the lowest for the krill meal diet, okay? So, egg quality, again, very good for the squid meal. So here, we can see that probably the good proteins in the squid meal is going in the egg and giving a good hatching rate, okay? So this was another improvement. At least we know that the squid meal is giving some good egg quality. So the astaxanthin gave improved egg production. The squid meal gave good egg quality. So the next diet, so we know, okay, sorry, this was what I explained just now, that the astaxanthin gave a good improved fecundity and the squid meal gave a good egg quality. So now we can all know what the next diet is, okay? The next diet is with addition of astaxanthin and 50% of the protein coming from squid meal, compared again to the ultimate diet, which is the raw fish. Spawning days equal. Total egg production a bit better for the dry pellet, and egg quality a bit better for the raw fish. But more or less here, the differences were not significantly different, and you can see that finally we are close to the raw fish diet by using addition of pure astaxanthin and squid meal. So, unfortunately, that was when my PhD ended, because I wanted to add paprika to the striped jack. I wanted to play around with the squid meal to get better results, but that is at least indicating what the right ingredients are. Now, we had the pleasure of participating in 10 years, 15 years of bluefin tuna research, okay, sponsored by EU funds, European funds. Okay, we had the ReproDot project, the Self-Dot project, and the Trans-Dot project. Dot is domestication of Tunnus tunnus. Okay, ReproDot was reproduction of bluefin tuna, where we got eggs in 2005 for the first time, fertilized eggs. Self-Dot is self-sustaining aquaculture, where we got eggs and we started producing some juveniles. And Trans-Dot was when we started to transfer the knowledge of bluefin tuna experimentation to a commercial scale. And in fact, this project, we got a result in Spain with 4,000 bluefin tuna. Okay? In my country, we have a small hatchery in Malta. We had a small hatchery, and we produced 18 bluefin tuna. So it was very nice, and we release into the sea. Okay, so these are the results of 15 years of hard work of bluefin tuna. I also did some work on bluefin tuna broodstock, and of course the broodstock is in the cage, it's not controlled, we didn't do an experiment to compare, okay? But from year after year working with the bluefin tuna and adding or decreasing the diet, we got these results, okay? Basically, in 2008, we had 0 squid meal, the eggs were clear and colorless, okay? And 20 million eggs were caught. 2009, we had 17% squid, not squid meal, sorry, squid, okay? The squid was as a whole squid added to the diet, 17%, and we got yellow eggs with more eggs in there, okay? 45% of the diet was squid, and you can see much more eggs, okay? And the eggs were clear orange, okay? They had a lot of carotenoids inside, because the squid, the belly of the squid contains orange color, usually eating krill, or other things like this. So this was an indication that the eggs were incorporating into their diet the carotenoids. In 2014, we had 50% less eggs, but we can't really compare these numbers because different number of broodstock, different countries, different conditions for egg collection. Egg collection in tuna is from the cages, so you get a lot of losses with the current. So we can't really compare numbers, but we can compare the quality, okay, and the total days of collection. You can see here they are drastically improved with squid added, and also clear yellow, clear orange color in the eggs. Here I made a note that in 2010 we lost a lot of spawning days because there was an earthquake. Okay, so there was an earthquake, this was in Italy, okay, and we lost a lot of spawning days. But basically we get an indication that the carotenoid in the diet and the squid gave good quality because there were good hatching rates, and also the coloration in the eggs shows that the diet had beneficial ingredients for the eggs. Okay, you can see here, this is tuna eggs fed on only mackerel, and this is tuna eggs fed with squid. Okay, so the coloration of the eggs is there for everyone to see. One year we had very nice orange eggs, okay, and we also fed paprika to the broodstock on one of the occasions, but we didn't collect the eggs. We sacrificed the fish to analyze. And the gonadosomatic index of fish that were fed on just bait fish was around 3, okay? And the gonadosomatic index of fish fed bait fish, squid, and paprika was about 6, okay? So it was much significantly higher, okay? And when you have gonads of tuna, okay, they are 8 kilos. Okay, so gonads of tuna are 8 kilos. So it was a very good response with squid and paprika. Again, the good ingredients, as I showed you in the previous presentation, astaxanthin, squid meal, krill meal, and paprika. Krill meal, we have to be cautious because some of the astaxanthins are esters, okay, and they may not be so beneficial to some species. Here is a summary. Astaxanthin, okay, good for red sea bream, yellowtail, striped jack, amberjacks, and bluefin tuna. Some fish have egg pigments. Striped jack and amberjack have no egg pigments. So when you use astaxanthin, it's beneficial for the parent and for the eggs, but in some species, only for the parent. Squid meal, okay, red sea bream, striped jack, yellowtail, not really proven, but it showed indications. Amberjack and bluefin tuna, all beneficial. Okay, and krill meal, okay, soft dry pellet, okay, for yellowtail and striped jack. If it is less than 20%, it can be beneficial. Frozen in red sea bream, definitely beneficial. Paprika is proven on yellowtail, amberjack, and bluefin tuna with good experimentation work. Okay, what are their effects? Carotenoids, as we mentioned, they are potent antioxidants, okay? Mainly astaxanthin and paprika esters. The spirulina did not give good results, but it can be checked because obviously it is more readily available. Very important for carotenoids to determine the optimal levels, okay? We can't add 30% carotenoid, 30 ppm carotenoid, and have failure, and we say carotenoid not good, okay? Maybe 10 ppm is good, not 30, okay? So depend on your species and what you are doing. Squid meal, it provides a superior optimum level, a superior protein quality, okay? Very important to determine the optimal levels. Extremely important to determine the optimal levels. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to continue on that work on striped jack and on yellowtail. Other ingredients proven to be good for broodstock development, vitamin E, vitamin C. Krill meal, I put a question mark because sometimes it has to be much less concentration. And possible tuna orbital oil, okay, the oil from the tuna eyes. This could contain arachidonic acid, which has a good beneficial effect on reproduction. Other investigations for future work, maybe future students can do work on optimal feeding period, sorry, the best feeding period before the spawning. So maybe 3 months before, 2 months before, 4 months before, which is the best to do. Okay, this could be proven by experiments. What happens to the metabolic pathway? What happens to the nutrients inside the fish? So for example, the astaxanthin, when it enters the fish, where does it go if it doesn't go in the eggs? Gonads, liver, muscle, heart, skin? What's happening? You know, this is very interesting to find out. And we must remember everything is species specific. I mentioned this in the beginning, I mentioned it now, okay? Extremely important that we need to see our species, adjust slowly and move along following results to see which one is more beneficial. Okay, unfortunately, the nutrient requirement studies for broodstock are limited to only a very few species. Okay, we mentioned them just now, carotenoids, fatty acids, amino acids, certain nutrients and vitamins are particularly important, but species dependent. We have to remember also that during gonad maturation, the fish gain 30% of their weight, sometimes up to 30% of their weight. Okay, so the nutrient requirements for reproduction are very, very important, and they are higher than those of juveniles. Okay, but the imbalance, too much nutrient, might cause detrimental effects for reproduction. Of course, much more work, much more research needs to be done, but previous research already indicates the way forward and produces a good basis and good roots to produce very good broodstock diets. Last thing, formulating adequate species-specific broodstock diets are essential for the development of the aquaculture industry so that we can get very good production of our eggs, larvae, and therefore more juveniles. Okay? I have a few slides here on Asian sea bass and tropical grouper, some work that I found on the internet. Obviously, you are very well accustomed with these protein levels and lipid levels for sea bass and tropical grouper, and just a couple of diets. Fish meal, 39% for the grouper, protein, 45 to 55% for the sea bass. Okay, and that is, it brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Sorry it was a bit long, but I tried to give you everything as much possible in the right way. Thank you.